first order of business is changes, additions to the agenda. At 6:45, which is in 4 minutes, we have someone from the Vermont School Board Association. Actually, we have two people from the Vermont School Board Association, the director as well as a search consultant who is going to join us just to give us an idea of what to expect should we engage the Vermont School Board Association in our permanent search for the superintendent. Let me see. I don't think there were any other.
Did you appoint interim superintendent on here?
Items.
I put it as items for action.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yep. So under items for action, we will vote to appoint our interim superintendent. Let me see, we have 3 minutes until BSBA is joining. I will take a motion to approve the minutes from April 25th.
So moved. Okay.
And Nikki seconds.
Faster online now than I am in person.
And I am going to go through with our roll call vote. Or were there any other changes or addition, clarifications to the minutes from our last meeting? Okay, we will start with our roll call vote. Anne Marie?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
And I, Amy, am an aye. The minutes have been approved. And it is now 6:44, and I saw where Sue Siglowski from the Vermont School Board Association, and I believe Jackie Wilson, who is a superintendent search consultant. And I welcome you to our school board meeting and to kind of give an overview of how a superintendent search is conducted.
Thank you very much, Amy. And I think what I'll do is ask Jackie if she could provide that overview because she is the one who works directly with boards on it, if that's okay with you, Jackie.
Sure, that's fine. So hi, David. How are you? Nice.
Good, Jackie. How you doing?
Yeah, David could probably do this for you. Because I've worked pretty closely with him for a couple of months. Well, for about a month. So the process, really throughout the process, it does get tailored. I can only speak to you from my experience, but there are some basic, if you look at the components of what VSBA guarantees, there are basics that any consultant would provide. And what we do is really work alongside the board from the get-go. Some of the first things that happen is that we work to help you develop that job posting. So that might sound simple, but sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't, because you really want to capture what are you looking for in your next superintendent. So at some points I've been involved that we have gotten before we even posted that, we did go through some process of getting some engagement from other stakeholders so that we had that clearly defined as to what we were looking for. So it really depends on where a board is and do they know that already? And is that a pretty simple thing or not? And one thing I want you to start thinking about sooner than later, I think it's really important, and I've learned this over the last year because the market is very competitive. You should be pretty clear going in as a board what you will pay that person. So I'm asking folks, I would be asking boards to post when they do that posting, here's our salary range. So that is something you can start to think about now. So that's the first step. And once that is established, I work with the board to present to you a timeline of what I think the process, how long it should take, and we rough that out. And then also what will be included, the things that we will do. And again, I can always share a draft with you from another place I've worked with, but the components are similar, but it will vary again, depending upon the needs of the community and what you're looking for. And so we develop a timeline that usually is probably 2 to 3 months long. That's ideal. I think that's from the beginning to the end of the process is about you want to have that wrapped up within probably 8 weeks or so, 8 to 10 weeks. And the approach I've used is the board really, one of your first charges is to identify a screening committee. So that screening committee is given a charge, and their charge usually is to go and to review all of the candidates that apply for that position, to do some rating of those candidates, and to decide who to interview. And their responsibility is then to bring to the board viable candidates for board interview. So they do a lot of the legwork. So they're the ones really digging in, they're the ones really carefully reviewing now those resumes. They are put a lot of thought into interview questions, and then we decide who, after interviews, who are the viable candidates to move forward to the board. And when those candidates go to the board, they are not ranked. They're not saying this is our top candidate, this is our second candidate. That's not how it happens. I'm sorry, my phone's
Hold
ringing.
on. Okay, I was gonna say, wasn't sure who that was. Okay.
That was me. I can't have, how it pops up on if you're talking on the computer. I apologize. And then, so those candidates will not be ranked coming to the board, but they will bring two to three folks to you that say, we think that both these people are highly qualified as superintendent candidates, and then the board starts their process, and so they would go through an interview process. And again, it depends upon the community. You may want to have other stakeholder opportunities. I've done some virtual forums with candidates, and then we've done survey questions after that, and community folks have weighed in. And so it really depends on the community as to how you want to involve your community and at what level you want to do that. And I help the board through the whole process with reference checks. This past year, both groups I worked with, they preferred that I do all the reference checks instead of parsing that out. So that's the approach I used, and I conducted all of the reference checks. And then when the board was ready to deliberate after interviewing the final candidates, I shared my findings from those reference checks. So I'm there the whole, as a consultant, you'll have them there through the whole process, there to support you, answer questions. We do on the screening committee, it's really important to have a couple of board members and whomever is elected as chair of that screening committee will really become the lifeline for the consultant. That's who you communicate with all the time. And it's almost every other day or so when you're in the midst of it, working through the process. So that's a big job. And I recommend that if, it's good to have the screening committee chair be a board member, because it's really nice to have that continuity, because that person then moves on to being part of the board process. So, I've talked a lot. Ask me any questions that you may have, that, things that you're thinking about. I am happy to answer them.
So Jackie, this is Amy. And hi, I was part of several search committees for superintendent, from when we went from 4 superintendents to 1. And what you were saying was bringing it all back to me. I started feeling kind of twitchy. So one of the part of the process that we had done before, we did have community members and teachers, community members, and students be part of that, at least at some point in the process. Would that still be something we could do? Would it be up to us?
Sure, that's up to you. Absolutely, you can do that. So you can decide that. I mean, usually your screening committee is, it's good to keep it to a size, around 10 to 12. So you can decide to have representation that represents all those groups. So that's a good thing to do. And the other thing, you can also say, let's just do a little, we're going to reach out to those groups. And now everybody is so used to virtual, it's kind of nice. What I did with one district is we had 3 questions that we posed, and we put those questions online in a Google form. And we were seeking input into what they were looking for, what they felt the strengths of their district were, where did they want to see things, what did they feel is an area for improvement, what qualities were they looking for in their next superintendent. And we put those 3 questions out, and we did have them identify if they were a student, if they were a parent, if they were an employee. And it was really helpful. So we gathered all of that information, and that information then, I shared that information with the screening committee. So that helped them as they were working through looking at candidates and trying to determine who might be the person that we're looking for. What are other stakeholders saying? So there's some ways to do that now. And I think it's probably less cumbersome because folks are so used to that virtual option. So you can use that, makes it a little easier to navigate that.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
I have a few questions.
Elizabeth?
First of all, Amy, would you mind showing where the number 20 was, showing who all is here? Here, just borrow my, do you want to just borrow my computer? No, I just wanted to see who's here. Okay.
Oh, you mean you want to click on that little participant?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you mind?
sorry.
That's why I logged in. What's that? I logged in so I could see
Yeah.
who's here.
Now you can scroll down, I think.
Yeah. And sorry for people who are seeing my face too close. Good?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're getting good with that, little owl.
My first question is, what exactly is involved with a reference check? What kind of questions do you ask? Do you simply ask whether you are the reference that the person gave, or what's involved with a reference check?
So reference checks are, I do some, I do the folks that they've given me, but I do way beyond that. So I will check with, always include board members, some teachers, and principals, somebody from central office. So usually around 7 or 8 folks. And I have a pretty set questions that I ask. I'm pretty tight on my reference checks. So I will ask questions about management style, leadership style, how they handle conflict. I would share, and again, I share with the board. I can share that whole document with you. Here are the things I ask. And then I take that information, and when I'm ready to share it with the board, I do not, if the board has asked me to do the reference checks, I do not hand out paper documents of what folks said. I'm not comfortable with that. And I let the board know that right from the get-go. So instead, I will say, here's what I heard for strengths. Here's what I heard for challenges. And here's some quotes that did really resonate. Here are the trends that showed up. So I shared that all verbally when the board is ready to deliberate about the candidates.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask the other ones
Sure,
as well?
yes.
Where's that in my head?
That's all right. Have you had any supervisory unions ask you for blind participation? And if so, how did you go about doing that?
No, I have not. And I don't know what you mean by that.
I mean, taking names off of resumes and removing addresses, and really making it so that a person coming to interview doesn't have any predispositions based on totally superficial identification.
Okay, no, I haven't been asked to do that, and I haven't done it.
Okay, and my third question is, and it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit of a tricky question, and that is, how would you go about expanding the diversity of the pool? And what I mean by that is all kinds of diversity. We tend to get, I should acknowledge first that I've never been through a superintendent search before, but the pool of candidates, I think, can be diversified in a way that we don't necessarily see all the time. Does that make sense? I'm trying to be specific, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that a person comes from a particular social class or race or gender or ability, disability. I also mean, the other things that form our makeup, that there's lots of ways that we could diversify our candidate pool.
Well, I think that one place to start with that is, that's why I spoke about the importance of identifying what you're looking for when you post that position. So I think that there needs to be clarity, and agreement as to what are you looking for in a candidate. And that may attract folks that may ordinarily not pay attention to that posting. So I think the posting is incredibly important. And most districts opt to use School Spring. I suggest you do, but there are other places you can go if you want to expand. If you want to expand that, that search. And I can check. I have not done that, but some of my colleagues have, and I'm not sure if they've had a lot of success. They've used Education Week. I'm not sure if that has yielded anything for them or not. something we could definitely, you know, reach out to folks and find out about.
Are you speaking in terms of going beyond school spring?
Right.
Okay, so you really generally just use school spring?
We generally use school spring. It seems to be, it's been my experience. I mean, it's people know about it. I mean, we get applicants from all over the country and, you know, and international. So it seems to, people are tuned into that. So I think it has a wide audience.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to hold Sue and Jackie up more, but are there any other questions anyone has?
Is Beth here?
Rebecca?
To tag along on Elizabeth's question, I would be interested in other options other than school spring and looking at, as you mentioned, your colleagues have looked at other places or other environments, but I would be interested in really trying to get that much more wider market there for what is it that we're looking for.
All right, yeah, and like Jackie said, that could be part of our discussion before we even post the position of determining all the places that we want it posted, just who it is that we're reaching out to. Are there any other questions for Vermont School Board Association? Elizabeth might have one.
I'm just looking back at what Beth said last meeting.
Yeah, Beth her question had to do more with VSBA itself and how to, when the Vermont School Board Association is doing hiring for VSBA staff, if there is an equity policy or what sort of equity work VSBA is doing internally.
Yeah.
Oh, so I can definitely answer that question. It's not often that VSBA is doing hiring. We only have 4 employees, including myself. We don't have a written hiring policy, but we have been doing a lot of equity work, which I can tell you a little bit about. We do have a model equity policy for school boards, which I'm sure you have seen. We have received a grant from the Vermont Community Foundation to do diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And through that grant, we have been able to do look at several of our model policies through an equity lens. We just issued a library materials selection policy that was revised using an equity lens. Underway is the student activities and interscholastic sports policy. And we're also right now working on a model policy on school branding that is required by H139. So we're doing that work. We've also done a lot of internal work to build our capacity on equity. We have done implicit bias training with the Kirwan Institute and also with CQ Strategies. We've done, the whole staff has done that. In addition, the whole staff has done a Beyond Bias course through the Center for Creative Leadership. We've done a 3-session series with Outright Vermont, which was offered to school board members, but also required for all of our staff. And when we attend the National School Boards Association annual conference we focus on the sessions that address educational equity. Through the Vermont Community Foundation grant, we've also provided mini grants to districts to support work that's innovative in the field. And we've done equity problems of practice, which is looking at analysis of our internal processes and documents, et cetera. We've revised our staff handbook with the equity lens. We are recruiting right now for a student intern for the summer, which is going to focus on educational equity. We've been very active on the Act 1 EQS subcommittee, the Task Force on Equitable and Inclusive School Environments. Let's see if there's anything else I can think of. We have an educational equity webpage. The VSBA board has done a retreat with the Arizona School Boards Association on equity and on training school boards to have the skills that they need for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's some of the work that we've been doing in the past couple of years on equity.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
I have
Oh, Elizabeth, sorry. It's okay.
one more. That was Beth's question, by the way.
Yeah.
Another question, and the other question is, what's the best time to begin a search? What's the best time of year?
Do you want me to do that, Sue?
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah, you may have more of a feel for that right now.
I mean, I've been retired. I was a superintendent. I've been retired for a couple of years, but I think you're best if you are positioned and ready to post that ad mid-December, early January, and you've done the legwork. You know that by then you're ready. You know that ad's ready to roll. You know what you want. You've decided on that salary range. I think that's a good time. I think Sue may disagree with me, but I think much earlier, folks aren't really sure. That's when they're kind of looking. That window is really from December through the end of February when folks are thinking about if they want to move on and do something different. I mean, do you think, Sue, has that been your experience too with other searches?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question to go along with that, and then I'm done with my questions. No, it's okay. So in terms of the school board, the whole community deciding how we want to post the position, what it is that we're looking for, so having community forums and having assistance with that, would it be unreasonable to engage a search consultant earlier, let's say in October, to assist us with a couple of community forums? Or
Sue, I'm going to put that, have you done something like that in the past?
I think typically we've seen the community forums happen later in the search process, not before it really gets rolling.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean,
we
you have to think about that and what are you exactly looking for and what role do you want that person to play, you know? I mean, I can just speak for myself. I don't think it's like a hard no, but I think you could have a conversation. I mean, and with the consultant and see, you know, what's their capacity and what could they contribute to that. So I think it's an option.
Yeah, it's something we could build into the contract. If it's going to be much more time consuming than the regular search, then it would probably increase the cost.
right, and that's, yeah, understandable. I was just thinking, since we have not, we've had David for 10 years, so our community has not been through a superintendent search for quite a while. And prior to that, we had had, I don't know how many community forums as part of looking at the position description and how the community, what qualities we were looking for in a superintendent so that all voices were heard. We did have quite a few community forums many years ago. And that's all I was wondering is if we could, and it's possible that prior to engaging a consultant, we could have that conversation on our own and then be ready to roll when we engage VSBA.
One thing that is fortunate for your district is, or your SU, is that you have time. You know, you're not in a rush, which is nice.
Yes, that is that is a positive for us. I'm very grateful. Having experienced the other side of that. So. Are there any other questions or comments? I want to thank Sue and Jackie for coming to our meeting, and we will certainly be in touch when we get to the point where we want to engage a assistance in our search.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Bye. All right, thank you, everyone.
Are there any comments in the chat box?
Let me look and see. I do not see any, and that reminds me, do you want to leave the chat box open?
No, I think that one is the agenda.
Right, it is. I can still post, but I'm the only one now that can.
Okay, so going back to our agenda. Thank you, everyone, for that moment change there. So we have approved the minutes. We are now on to public participation and board announcements. Is there any public participation on items not related to the agenda? And I see Misty Booten has her hand raised.
Hi, thanks. I won't take too much of your time. Oh, is that echoing on your end?
No, you're
No.
fine.
Okay. I missed the Windsor board meeting. I was at my son's baseball game, but I just wanted to make just one note. I got to go to the self-directed learning informative meeting a few weeks ago. It was for parents, and David was actually in my group, and we got to talk to principals and parents and people from all over the place. There were people from Ohio, and it was awesome. And I'm like really excited for other parents in the community and teachers to learn more about this self-directed learning. And anyway, I just wanted to make that note. I just wanted to say how awesome of an opportunity it was. And I really think it's something that Windsor should, look into even more. It was a fantastic meeting. And so that, and then also I just wanted to say something really quickly. I've been talking to a lot of teachers in the community, mostly here in Windsor, some of the support staff, and they're tired. They're really, really tired. And I'm looking at the agenda and I see a lot of stuff on here about equity, which I think is great. I always have a little bit of a different opinion than some people, and I think we do need to address equality, but I think that we really need to start looking at what's happening in our school as well as far as our teacher burnout rate. And I'm a little worried because I don't know if the staff always addresses some of these issues with, the superintendent or the principals or administration, but some are saying to me like they're ready to leave. And they're just saying, I got to get to the end of the school year. I don't know if I'm going to come back next year. And, I'm kind of like a busybody in the community, always asking questions to the teachers, to the principals, anybody I see. I'm like, how's it going? How are you doing? Are you holding in there? I'm always asking. And it's such a common theme right now with our teachers. And I don't know if they just don't feel comfortable addressing these issues, but I think we really need to have more conversations about it. And we need to figure out the core problem that's happening, because I really don't want to see us lose some of these. We have awesome teachers. We really do. We have, part of the reason I love our school is because we just have such amazing teachers and support staff. And I don't want to see us lose any of them. And so I just wanted to put that bug in your ear as the school board, to maybe have some more conversations with each other, with our staff, and just come up with some ideas. Maybe try to do a survey. Surveys are hard because teachers don't always feel comfortable being honest with them, but trying to get a better understanding of where they're at. I don't have the answers for that. I only know little tidbits of what they say, and concerns me. So anyway, I just wanted to say that to you guys. I'm excited with some of the stuff that you guys are doing. I'm super excited about the barbecue. I really want to learn more about the future of Windsor and its education, but I also want us to focus, or hope that you'll focus a little bit more on what's going on with our educators, because it's concerning to me as a parent, because I don't want to lose these teachers. They make my kids' lives better. So anyway, on to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. Are there any other comments? Are there any announcements from board members?
I can tell you, as a legislator, that Governor Scott signed the equalized pupil bill today. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's good. Nice. Big change.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully leading to more.
Right.
I see Anne Marie's got her hand up.
Anne Marie?
I have an announcement that Wethersfield this Thursday is going to be having a community dinner. And everybody in the Wethersfield community is invited to come out and see the school, get together, talk with neighbors and friends. It's Thursday from, I believe, 5:30 or 5 to 7, somewhere around there, this Thursday.
Thank you. Colleen Deschamps.
I would like to echo Anne Marie's comments. We also have our community dinner on Wednesday night from 5 to 7 in Windsor, so please come out and join us as well.
Heartland's.
Come on, Heartland.
And when is Heartland?
Heartland's is Wednesday.
Man, Craig is
Yeah, the 25th from
Craig's gonna be a
5:30
busy
to
boy,
6:30.
isn't he?
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Nikki. I was just about to chime in. Thank you.
There you go.
We're all there.
We're all barbecuing.
If you're a Heartland resident, you have to get your reservation in today, though.
Great. And there's one here in Windsor.
Yeah.
And Anne Marie, when is Wethersfield?
Thursday night.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's exciting.
Lots of barbecuing.
Lots of barbecuing going on. Hang on, Craig.
Were there any other comments from the public or board announcements?
I will say one. Heartland Drama pulled off their annual drama show. And we did, one of the candidates mentioned collaborating with other schools. There were a whole bunch of Wethersfield kids in the production as well. And we're now just knocking on wood that it wasn't a super spreader event.
We'll see.
Masking was highly encouraged, but it was hot.
Oh my goodness.
But the show was amazing, 3 times in a row. Amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Well,
Anne Marie's got her
let me
hand
see.
up.
Anne Marie.
I also forgot that Wethersfield, and yeah, there were students in the Heartland production, and that was great. And also Wethersfield is having Wethersfield's Got Talent on June 6th. You can come out and see our talent show.
Great.
right, fun.
Oh, and also, on Thursday, at 6 o'clock is our next meeting with Mary Gannon. Right? So, and it's open to the public, although it's board focused.
Correct. I'll mention that again.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We are moving on to our superintendent's report. David.
Okay, let me share my screen. Hold on just a second here. Taking a little longer to start. There it is. Yeah, this will be brief because I know we have a lot of stuff on the agenda, but let me just kind of go through a couple of things for everybody. This is nice because I can see some people while I'm presenting. Yeah, we've talked a lot about the equity audit that we're doing in partnership with Springfield. It'll be 2 separate audits, but we felt to have one consultant team come to this area one time or work with one set of folks might help us to save a little bit of money. We sent out 10 requests for proposals and we got 4 back. I think I've mentioned this before. We do have a process now. We have a joint Springfield and Mount Scottney Supervisory Union team set up. We'll vet those proposals next week. I had to wait for the Springfield, for Zach from Springfield to appoint their team. They now have it. I just got the emails today. I think I sent out I sent out a pre-announcement to our folks who are on our team. There are a couple of board members, a couple of principals, a teacher from the equity team who will vet those proposals. So be ready to hear from me probably as early as tomorrow. And rather than do a doodle poll, we're probably just going to pick a couple of dates and then see which one works best and then move forward because we really want to get going with this and have this done, before June leaves, and then we can set up with that company sort of a timeline of how the equity audit will actually proceed. So just wanted you to know that we're a little bit behind, but not much. June 2nd, we mentioned barbecues. We have barbecues all over the place. You heard that all 3 communities are having community nights. The supervisory union is also having a community night, part of a community forum on June 2nd. The planning is well underway. We've had a couple of meetings. It will start in the Lois B. White Theater in Windsor at 5:30. The forum part of it will focus mostly on our strategic plan and the community's role in that plan and the board's role in that plan. And then there'll be a good Q&A after that. There will be childcare provided for school-age children, K to 6, during that first hour. And then we'll immediately move outside of the auditorium for another barbecue. So there won't be much cooking that needs to be done in any of these households over the next month or so because you'll be able to barbecue out at all of our buildings, especially we want to make sure we get a good turnout at that June 2nd community forum. More information will come out on that. Some of that's coming out from my desk, but also Angie Ledoux is putting some of that out from her desk as well. And thanks, Nikki and Davis have been, as board members, have been a firm part of that planning committee. So we really thank them for that. Mary Gannon, we mentioned that. Those sessions are in process. The next one, as Elizabeth mentioned, is this Thursday at 6 p.m. I'll send out the reminder. I'll also be there. We're trying to work on the logistics because I heard that there was a little bit of technical difficulty at the beginning. I don't think... This was the rumor, just a little bit. So Lori and... a little bit of a meltdown. Lori and Mary are working on the technology here, and not that I'll make a tremendous difference with the technology, but I will certainly plan to be there too. These are virtual sessions. Public is invited, but they are board focused, so a lot of the interaction is with the board. But if the public wants to come and observe, please feel free to do that. They are public session meetings, since the majority of the board will be there. The Equity Task Force, that's the internal Equity Task Force, or Anti-Racism Task Force, has been meeting all year long. We took a little bit of a break, partially because of some of the work that was going on in getting ready for the equity audit distribution of those proposals. But there was a lot of work that went on, and this is the group that worked with Dr. Crum over the course of the year, came up with a great action plan, some serious and specific goals. We're going to review those goals one more time. We've established a meeting tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. I noticed that many of you who are on that task force accepted the invite. That will also be all virtual, just due to the time of day and the logistics. But we'll hopefully also be able to transition to our new interim superintendent once that's voted on tonight, and we'll also be able to kind of review the work we did this year and then outline the work going forward with that task force. I think a lot of what that task force will focus on is expanding the task force, first of all, because we've talked throughout the year about not having good student representation on that internal anti-racism equity task force. We'd like to make sure that happens. And then also, we're probably gonna have to wait a little while for the equity audit to get off the ground and to start to get some preliminary information back as we start to prioritize some of those action steps. But everything's in place, and that was a very vibrant group that met all year long with Melissa. So thank you for those who participated. Go ahead.
Is Melissa still on the hook for one more meeting with us?
She is. And as a matter of fact, she's on the hook for meeting with the task force, and she's also one of the people who submitted a proposal for the equity audit. Yeah.
Excellent.
So we're not going to lose Melissa. We're going to stay in touch with Melissa, and I've made it very clear to her that task force and this board would like to stay in touch with her. She was, I mean, I can speak from every member of that committee. I think she was an incredible resource, and her ability to guide us through some of this work and to help us with the definition of some of these terms, and also as
whole conversation.
exactly that whole conversation was very powerful. So yeah, one form or another, she'll be with us next year. The interim search was completed and will be completed here in just a short period of time when the board votes for the new interim superintendent. And then last but not least, this is kind of interesting, our amazing tech department. And by the way, on the next agenda, if anybody wants to make a note of this, Larry wants to unveil just as a prototype what he and his team have set up as sort of a new school board portal, so that people, any information, anything you want to know about what your school board's doing or how your school board's doing or what information or announcements are coming from your school board, they'll be able to go directly to that link and pull that right up. So he wants to demo that next.
It's really hard to even know what.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of times you got to jump around for who's meeting when and where's the agenda and where are the minutes and what are the announcements. And he thinks that this is going to be front and center and will lead people directly to all things school board. And he's pretty excited about it, and he wants some feedback. So if there's any last minute tweaks before it goes live, he can hear that directly from all of you. It's also, as Larry will point out, very consistent with our strategic plan, right? Because we talked about better communication, so this will go along with the entire website update, but this I think is a big one. But that's not that last bullet. That last bullet is also our wonderful tech department, who has figured out a way through some piece of software that anytime a 911 call goes out from any of our buildings or the central office, the principals are immediately alerted on their cell phone, no matter where they are. They might be at a conference in Burlington, but they'll immediately know when that 911 call up. And I get a backup response. So I would immediately call the principal, say, have you checked in? Is everything okay? And we kind of go from there. So far, and by the way, it's a relentless call. It will not stop, because you can hang out, you get your notifications on your cell phone. You can wipe out the notification within seconds. It's gonna, until you respond and admit you've received the notification, then it's gonna keep bugging you. So that keeps everybody in that in that loop.
So 911 still goes to the 911 operator.
Not, yeah,
It's a
Yeah,
notification.
'cause
yeah, it's a no, yeah, yeah.
There's the
good-
phrasing there that I
Good,
was like,
good,
Yeah.
good clarification, Nikki, yeah. No, I am not getting 911 calls.
Yeah.
I think it could be a great part-time job, but no, but yeah, but in the event that the 911 center gets alerted that one of our schools has called them, we get a notification. So I just thought that was pretty slick, really,
Yeah.
when you get right down to it.
And it's-
I think that's, oh, sorry, Christine.
have to come from the school phone, not
It has to come from a school phone, not from a cell phone.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That makes sense.
Did you learn that one? Good, good. Okay, thank you. All right, I think that's it. Unless there are any questions, I will stop sharing and, but I'm certainly open to questions. There's a lot of good work that's going on. And again, as much as I feel terrible about having to leave and the wonderful relationships I've made, and I know we still have one more meeting together before I make the final goodbye, I'm just very optimistic about this entire supervisory union, the quality of the school boards, the quality of your administrators, the work that's going on. You know, I know the interim will be able to carry this forward, and you've got every reason to be extremely hopeful for the work ahead.
Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I don't want to be premature in doing so, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this the school board portal. I think that's the kind of thing that we need just to make the information that this board does and the work that we do accessible to the community. So I'm really glad to hear that Larry has worked on that, and I'm very excited to see how it goes. And I don't want to extend congratulations just yet, but I'm sure that it's incredible, and looking forward to it.
You need to see it first. It might be.
I gotta see it first, and I like to give feedback on this kind of thing. But
no, that's great.
I'm so happy to hear that was something that time and energy went into.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for David?
Yeah, no, never mind.
Are you sure?
Well, I was going to ask you about graduation and whether you can tell us when. Can you just announce when the different schools graduate?
Yeah, all the graduation dates have been set. I don't know if I have them memorized. I think they went out in my last email blast last week, but Windsor Senior High School graduation, Colleen, is June 10th, correct? At
June
7
10th,
p.m.
7 p.m.
It's a Friday night. I see Heartland is here.
Heartland is
Heartland's
at-
8th grade graduation.
8th grade graduation, June 7th at 6 p.m. 15th. Ah.
See, it's a good thing we did this.
Whoa.
It's June 15th at 4.
What is in my calendar?
And then Weathersfield, Anne Marie, do you have the graduation date and time?
Yes, it's the 14th. I don't have the time, but I know it's the 14th. It's probably around 5 or 6, but 14th.
I'm told 7 p.m. So,
Oh, okay.
and then West Windsor has a 6th grade graduation, and that is June 10th. They tend to go on the same day as the senior, and I believe that's at 9 a.m. Do I have that correct?
I think so. Yes.
Does that sound right? Okay, good. And that's a great little ceremony too, in the morning. And then did I leave anybody out?
June 13th, 6 p.m., 8th graders in Windsor.
Yeah, they do a little, I don't think they call it graduation, but it's sort of a step up or passages, thank you, that happens. That's a really nice ceremony too. But those are the dates and times. It's a busy time. June is an incredibly busy time.
Sorry, Colleen, can you repeat what time the passages ceremony is?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Thank you.
Nancy.
Never mind. I just found it. Thank you. And it was mentioned. Okay.
Any other questions? Bill.
I just want to quickly ruminate on this, and it is a question, David. I'm wondering if the SU office, along with the administrative staff, could put together, and I'd be more than willing to help, what the school board has done, and this may be an individual support, what the school board has done and what the administration has done to assist students and teachers for next year. Because I know we've addressed this. I know we've addressed, a lot of the tensions that have happened with students and parents, and really a lot of more money that we're spending for new staff this year and next year to address that.
Yeah, we can try to put a little something together, maybe for our June meeting, but just to kind of outline that. I mean, certainly, one thing right off the bat, not because you're mentioning this, Bill, but we had a lot of success in negotiations in terms of building good supports into salary schedules for the support staff and for the teachers. I mean, trying to be as competitive as we can and as thankful as we can. We've used some of our ESSA monies towards some of that support. But we'll kind of list it out and bring some of that to you next week, next month, rather, at our SU meeting.
Thank you.
Rebecca.
This is connected to Bill's question. I know that Katie, David, this is to you. Katie did an incredible job in hiring a lot of support staff, mental health staff, and that sort of information would be valuable because we really try to address some of the mental health issues overall and spent quite a bit of money on it. So yeah, if you can include that information, that would be appreciated.
That's good. We will. And the other piece that's really important to remember is that we've had David Melnick, who's probably one of the best trauma consultant coaches and therapists in the Northeast, if not certainly in Vermont. He has met monthly with staff, with what we call our trauma champions team, sort of providing that level of support for staff. Sometimes it just never see, and we're gonna engage him again next year. But I think those are the kind of things Bill's talking about, and providing those opportunities for teachers with some of the top professionals that are there and available, and all the way from the employee assistance program, which is always available to teachers, to these other specialists who have come in over the course of the year to work with it. And but yeah, I mean, it's never too much. I think it's going to be even as necessary next year. We thought this was going to be our recovery year. I think it didn't turn out that way. I think next year will hopefully, God willing, will be our recovery year, and we'll keep going with a lot of these supports that are in place. And the last thing too, I didn't put it on my list, but Bill triggered it when he asked that question. We also plan in June to give you an overview or an outline of what's going on at the middle level too. I know Bill talked about that last time, but we'll get something out ahead of time, so you got a little time to chew on it and look at it, and then we'll address it at our June SU meeting, and maybe even have a little time at our individual meetings in June, because that's another torch that has to get carried, over the finish line over the next, 2 to 3 years. So I just didn't want you to think that had fallen off the table. It's still there.
Sorry, Katie, this is a good segue into, we're also planning on doing the SU new hires.
Yes.
That in June as well.
Yeah, in June, we'll give you all the SU new hires, right? Because Katie has been working incredibly hard, as somebody said, on hiring support staff, hiring paras, hiring SLPs, OT. These are not easy positions, but she's working hard to do it. And we'll give you that list next, because you have to technically, on the professional license side, you have to appoint them. But we weren't quite ready tonight. We're still in the believe it or not, even though it's the end of May, we're still hiring.
Okay, thank you. Any other? We are,
Simply as well.
yes, we are moving on to the hiring policy, items for discussion.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this hiring process, I think this is part of what Bill's working on in terms of, and maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I'm confusing two different items, but I know that Bill was going to be working with the negotiating team, kind of looking at comparables as well as we're reaching out and hiring, especially administrators and at-will employees. Is that what this item was about, or was it something else?
Well, no, this is really this is for something else, but I think, listening to what our presenters had to say today, I think this could, basically transition into that piece to be able to come up with that salary scale offer.
I asked to have this put on as an agenda item because I thought this would be a really great time to take a look at a hiring policy, so that, for example, if we wanted to have blind applications, we could put that in the policy. And, it should start at the top. The hiring policy should start with the top. So that was why
With the board, you mean? Yeah, with the boards.
Well, with the superintendent.
And the superintendent, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it should be the
So
same
you're saying this would be
policy
a
for everybody
good,
on
I
top.
got you. I got you.
This would be a good time, since we're taking a closer look at all of this stuff, this would be a really good time to, start with something that we could implement as we're through this process.
Right. And there is a question. Rebecca.
I had chimed in when Elizabeth raised this question last time, and I wasn't sure that what she was talking about specifically, but it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but she just explained that. But one of the questions that I had when she brought the issue up was also the fact that we apparently had people that were leaving. And so my question and I wanted more information on why was it that people were leaving. I already know that a community member alluded to the fact that in her conversations with teachers, some are talking about leaving. I also wanted to know if there is an exit policy that is used in our school when someone does leave, that sits with them and asks them, why is it that they're leaving, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think the simple answer to that is that there's no policy around that or even standard protocol. We've done it, and sometimes individual buildings will do it based on, the level of the employee. So it has happened. Some board members have sat on some of those, but it's not codified in policy. And I was just looking, you had a hiring policy at one point. I just went to the website to look. I don't see a hiring policy right now. I think we do have a hiring protocol that I could get out to everybody.
Right.
But if you wanted to,
I know Hartford has a really
you think it's got a good
outstanding one. I'm trying to find it right now because I didn't bring my computer. But they have a really good one. Bill, do you know what the Hartford hiring policy is? I don't know why you would off the top of your head, but.
Well, I'm sure given the work they've done over the last couple of years, they probably build a fair amount of equity into it, and but it would be good. We can certainly get. I think it's good for the board to discuss this and to know what you want in there, but it's always better, as we know, to work from a draft. I just misunderstood this agenda item. I apologize, but we can get that protocol out. We can try to find Hartford's, or Elizabeth can, and then we'll get it out to everybody, and then we could just put this back on the. Given your conversation today with the Vermont school boards, I mean, not that you're going to necessarily hire them, but you've got some time to really sort through this. It might be a good retreat item for the summer to kind of talk about some of this stuff as a board. And I agree with Elizabeth. I think where you can model those hiring procedures and protocols would be with the superintendent hire, right? I mean, that's a good, you might as well start it right at the top.
Yeah, I think so.
Are there any other questions on that? That can be on our next agenda to have those, at least examples of hiring policies.
Okay. Yeah, I don't look at it.
And it could be that, because I know in response to Rebecca's question that we have had exit interviews. Unfortunately, they've been inconsistent.
Well, and I don't know what our employment policy is, but we might consider building into our employment policy regular reviews.
How do you mean regular reviews of?
Employees, or all employees are allowed to have the option of having an annual review or semi-annual review.
Is
Talk
that
about that.
where
mean
you're
SU?
reviewing their performance, or they're talking to you guys about giving feedback about how things are going in the SU?
Both. Not that the board would do a review, but that every employee has the option of asking for a review so that they can improve their job. So, I mean, I think it's really helpful so that you can set goals and.
SU employees?
I meant all employees, but it's
Because
just something to talk about.
We do have our supervision and evaluation system that we currently have, and that we are, we're going to talk a little bit later about how we might revamp that to make it a little bit more individualized for our staff so that they can be doing some more goal setting and things like that. So I don't know if that meets any part of that need, but.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
because teaching staff has a regular review. It's a cycle that they go through. The only
I thought they only did it for the first.
No, there's
year
a
or 2 years.
3-year cycle after. So the first 2 years are their initial kind of review where they're being evaluated, they're being observed throughout the year. And then after they get through the probationary part, which is 2 years, then they move into a 3-year cycle where they have goal setting, an observation year, and an action research year. And they just follow that same cycle.
COVID broke it up.
COVID was a little bit trickier.
Okay, so
But
they
yeah.
are reviewed at each point of that cycle?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
every
so
3 years?
By their supervisor, yeah.
they do the goal setting where they would meet with their supervisor and talk about their goals and then implement their goals, and then they meet again. There's an observation year though, where the principal actually goes in and does a formal, like twice a year, they go in and do the observation and document all of that and give that. So it's, I'm happy to send you the document with what that.
I'd love to look at
looks
that.
like. Yeah. And then, like I said, we're looking to kind of.
It needs to be
revamp that,
revamped.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking that, I mean, do you mind talking about this for just a minute?
For just a minute.
Okay. I was thinking about the way that we reviewed Dr. Baker last year.
Because, and that is something that the SU board does have, that is one of our
Jobs.
Yeah, that.
'Cause I'm your
that's the
direct
role
report.
of the SU board is the superintendent evaluation, but we do not evaluate.
Oh, no, I was not.
anyone else.
I certainly wasn't
And-
suggesting that we do. Just
even-
make no mistake, I
even-
wasn't suggesting
yeah,
that we do
even
anything like that.
To use that, that word, evaluation.
We're not professional educators.
I know, but that's what you
So-
were saying was have a regular evaluation of employees.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And that,
I misspoke.
that is.
If I give that impression, I did not mean to give that impression. That is not
So,
what I meant.
yeah.
I just meant that all employees should have the opportunity to be reviewed by their supervisors
Oh, yes,
Right.
that is
Oh,
happening.
that happens.
That is happening
That's what I-
regularly.
that's-
Yes,
That's what I
yes.
was saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I was also saying about David's, the way that we reviewed David last year, we had these different standards. So if the review process,
Right.
if we were going to, like, if we're talking about the hiring process, we should fold in some of those standards that we used to evaluate David last year. And so that when we go back and review the superintendent, it'll all kind of work together. And that if you're going to update any of that stuff, maybe consider taking a look at those standards.
We actually use the Danielson framework for evaluating teachers. That's the model that we use.
And there are standards built into that.
Yep, and there are standards and
Okay.
rubrics that are built into that.
Yeah.
that
Well, maybe we should do it the
system.
other way around then. Maybe we should take a look at those. and
For
think of
administrators
those-
or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
What I
just mean
think,
it makes sense, it makes sense to me to have the system be a whole system.
Alignment.
Alignment, yeah.
There you go.
what I think would be helpful to the administrators, this is what I thought we were talking about, and I know, I'm sure both Amy and Elizabeth were not implying you were gonna start evaluating
Oh,
people,
God,
I
no.
got that, but
But that's when
yeah.
you were saying.
Yeah, that word evaluation
that
came out a
all
couple of.
employees could
Yeah.
come and ask to be
No, 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 no,
evaluated
no.
later.
Maybe
No,
not, but.
no, God, no. I'm sorry.
But here's what, and I know other hands are up, but I think one thing that could be helpful, one thing that could be helpful to the administrators, I think, would be an employment policy, right? That sort of states some overriding principles that we're gonna follow when we're hiring candidates. We talked about these in the past. I think there is a protocol which we can find. We talked about nepotism at some point, and we talked about, those things came up.
Yeah.
And just equity and some of those I think that would be nice. And if Hartford's got a good one, or we can look around to see if there's any good templates out there. And I think you could include in that, like Rebecca said, I think we could include in that, exit interviews, and trying to make sure that we knew.
That's what I was getting at. If we're
Right.
going to have a hiring policy,
It should cover
why shouldn't
everybody.
we have
Right.
an employment policy that
Exactly.
covers all of that? stuff?
Exactly.
That is what I was.
That would be
Yeah,
helpful.
And it could be an employment policy that has hiring.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. Supervision,
That will be regular.
right, exactly.
Every person, that's what I meant.
Exit
Every
interview.
person has the right to be reviewed annually by their supervisor. That's what I meant.
That could be helpful.
That- And putting it all in one employment policy. I apologize if I.
We'll look for examples. If anybody finds any good ones, then send them to us.
I'll send you some examples.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
It looks like Pietro did a presentation about it last year.
At VSBA, I think.
So I forwarded that to you guys.
Great.
Thank you.
To the administration too, Nikki, or no?
No, but I can.
Yeah, just at least to me, so I got it.
Yeah, it looks like it's got the beginnings of some model policy in it, but
Good.
they don't have a model policy.
I'm sure we can do this.
I'll send
Good.
you what I have. I have a couple.
Good. I think it's always easier to work from a template. We get something
Yeah.
drafted,
Absolutely.
then we kind of look at it. Yeah.
Larry, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just let you know that when I started back in September for finance and operations, I discovered that there was not annual reviews going on. So I did annual reviews for all the department heads. And then and I shared this at the April board meeting with the timeline. My plan is to implement a framework for those department heads, and then kind of show that to them, so that the hope would be that they're going to give annual reviews to their employees too. So it should all filter down the chain. So I think that'll be there. I want to roll it out slowly because people who are not used to the cycle of annual reviews, like the teachers, and Brittany spoke to that. They all get them. It's going to be a surprise to some of them, but not a surprise. It's going to be difficult for them. And I do exit. We have less turnover for our 40, 50 employees for finance and operations, but I offer exit interviews to anybody who leaves if they want it. I don't make them, obviously, but if they ask, I'm happy to do exit interviews, and it's always pretty enlightening. That's all I have.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, so hiring policy will definitely be on June.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We are moving on to other policies. Number 1 is C28, transgender and gender non-conforming students. And this is the initial review.
Yes, it is.
Just see.
I do have a, hold on.
Rebecca.
Thanks, Amy. I just wanted to know if this policy, I didn't get a chance to read it all, but I wondered if it came straight from the Vermont School Board.
Yes, it did. Yes, it's their recommended. I mean, we changed some of the, to make it local, but yes, it did.
Okay, I have a couple of, is there anybody who could take down?
I'm scratching notes
Okay.
right on the, just tell me the section, that's all.
Okay. This is a comment that was sent to me. One sentence concerned me slightly. A student or parent in the case of a minor student who is currently enrolled may request retroactive changes to that student's record, including name and gender. Could this be used by a parent as grounds to change a record back to birth name and gender assigned at birth to essentially undo a record change requested by the student? Is there any reason to allow a parent to make the request versus limiting that action to the student themselves? I also think there's a typo in the paragraph preceding that sentence. It's like an extra word.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
The word education is stuck in there.
Elizabeth, I only got part of that. Can you summarize that again?
I'm going to paraphrase. How's that? Okay. So I think the person was concerned about the sentence that says a student or parent of a minor who is currently enrolled may request retroactive changes to that student's record, including name and gender. But in the above paragraph, which is concerning that a parent might choose to change what their student wanted, but the above paragraph says where a student's record may not be changed absent a court order due to state and federal law, efforts will be taken to maintain those records in the strictest confidentiality in order to preserve the student's transgender status. So it seems like you can't go back into the records unless a court of law says you can.
Although it does say you have to remain consistent with state and federal guidelines.
Right.
You see if you read right through that paragraph.
Yeah.
So there's some real technical and legal implications with this. Basically what the state of Vermont has said, and I'm just trying to summarize, is that a student's gender is based upon, what they have chosen. Okay. And it also means that they can then rechange it. They can choose their gender. The technical difficult piece is that when uploading the SLDS state reporting, that data file only takes male or female. It doesn't take any other data piece.
It's a little behind on that, yeah.
Yeah, so basically what you have, and this is something that I'm working on, is that when my SIS, which is different than your SIS, but I'm sure it has the same sort of issue, is I have a legal gender and then a legal name and a chosen gender and a chosen name, specifically preferred name. because you can't change that legal ID, the legal name, the legal first and last name, middle name, and legal gender without a court order. I'll let Larry kind of see what he found for a solution here.
Yeah, I don't have a great. I'm sorry, Amy.
Larry, Patty has her hand raised first. Sorry, and then Larry.
Thanks, Amy. I was just wondering if someone could please put a link in the chat box so that those of us who don't have access to the
Can do that.
policies, so that we can read them. Thank you, David.
And Larry.
Yeah, I don't have a great solution, but Bill's exactly right, and that's what our charge was told from the state. We have a legal in Power School. You have a legal gender and a gender, and you have a legal first name and legal last name, and you have a first name and last name. And we were told, unless there was a court order, to not mess with the legal fields. That does not affect what we saw, what the student sees in Power School. It does not affect what the what the teacher sees in Power School. They see the chosen name. So there's no solution I have perfectly with the state system, but Bill's exactly right. I have nothing more to add.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Amy, I have a quick question.
I took care of that double.
I have not read through the entire thing, but I'm wondering, is it saying that a student, a minor, so not 18, right, can ask to have the record changed?
No.
So then there would not be a situation where a parent would override a student's choice in that way if a student can't request that change, right? Like, so if a minor can't request the change, so then therefore a parent can't go in and retroactively change it back, because that would never happen, correct?
Right. It's written awkwardly here. I don't like the way it's written, but
It's written in legalese.
But it's written in legalese because I'm sure it came out of law office to the SBA. And essentially what it's saying is a student or a parent in the case of a minor student, right? So a student who's a minor cannot do any of these changes or legally change their record or their, but a parent could. A parent could, ask.
But not without a court order.
But yes, because it says down below, such requests will be handled case by case with consideration of the and must be consistent with state and federal mandated reporting requirements with the school's ongoing efforts to maintain internal blah, blah, blah. So it's.
But a student can change their name and they can change their gender identity.
Legally? Without a parent permission?
Yeah.
In a court
Well,
system?
that's fairly new though, right?
Well, gender identity, yes, it is new.
That's almost brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the policy is outdated.
Well, what's
The policy's already outdated, yeah.
What's the what can someone post the new law? Because you can't just change your name. You can't change your legal name. No one can do that. You have to have a legal name change.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but a child can't do it. However, unless a child goes to the court and does that on their own, a minor, right? So you have a 16-year-old.
Well, there's an
unless
age
they go to
limit
the
too. I don't know
court.
what the age is.
Yeah, and
15?
do that. Yep, 16, I think.
16, yeah.
So, but unless they go to the court and they actually do that, they would not be able to make that records request change at the school because they would not have a legal name change.
They'd have to go
Is
to
that
court
right?
to do it.
But
That's mine.
A parent would have to go to court as well. A parent can't change their child's legal name.
Not without seeking the court to do that. That's right.
That's right. A legal name change requires a court. Now that doesn't mean that students can't have a preferred name.
Nice. This is our first reading.
That's a different story, right, Bill?
So,
Katie has her hand raised.
I'm wondering if this isn't outdated already, given that legislative session.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's already, it has been signed into law.
Me too.
Yeah.
So just doing quick, because life experience with this. right now, according to the judicial website and the forms, which haven't been updated since June 2020. So if anything's newer than that, but according to the old forms, the consent of a parent still is needed for a legal name change. So I think whatever has just
For a
passed,
minor child.
a minor child, and over 14, they have to sign, but a minor was under 18, at 18 and under.
Correct.
It was not 16, it used to be.
I think that just changed this session,
18.
right?
So if it just changed this session, we're waiting on new, maybe it's as of July 1, that's when it
I
will
can
change,
look it
so that would
up,
be
but,
great to get the information.
I can't imagine that it doesn't go along with the age of emancipation.
I don't think it does. I
I
don't think it does.
And
But I think that was the intent. I think that's why that legislation, was they
No, the
wanted it
legislation
to.
was to allow transgender students to go back to their birth certificate and change their
That's correct.
gender
If
designation.
they were a certain age, 16 or over, right?
I think so.
Right.
Okay. So
Okay.
we need.
We have a little more work to do on
A
this.
significant amount of information is necessary to see if this policy is up to date with a law
Yeah.
that was recently. And I have two people with hands raised. Let me go to that. Rebecca?
So my question is, and I think it's been answered already, is that if a parent called up regarding their child, John Willie, there would not be any problem or confusion in terms of there is no John Willie here. Do you know what I'm asking, David? That if a parent called up, that nothing would really change without involvement from a family member. It's so, they would not be calling Windsor School for John Willie, who does go to Windsor School, but the name has changed. And
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, that's my concern. It's like, where does a parent, how does that connection, that family connection is made to ensure that everyone is on the same page?
Well, this is I don't know if Larry has the same basic policy as I have, but to change a legal name within our SIS, our Student Information System, we require at Hartford, and probably at any school, you have to have a court order. And we actually need that court order. We upload it into the system so that any administrator can see the court order. But to change the legal name, to change a preferred name, we have a process. There's a process that a student goes through. They meet with a counselor. They discuss the process. They get the parents involved, and then, if all the I's are crossed with this procedure, then we change the child's preferred gender or their preferred name. And that, as Larry said, that is what is visible to the student, to the parent, what shows up on the report card. The only thing that's required by law is a transcript because it's a legal document, a transcript must have a legal name. That's the only thing that's required.
I would think that's true. You really do have a responsibility to keep a legal name for historical reasons. I mean, people use these school records for all kinds of stuff, so it is a serious legal name. But you have a way in your system to do the preferred name and have that be web. Larry, is that true for us too?
Yes, our process is very similar to Hartford. Everything Bill said is what we do. There is a legal name.
Yeah.
And there's a first name and last name. And you can change one and not the other. And the faculty and the student and the parents only see the non-legal name. We require a court order because of law to change a legal name.
Yeah.
So yes, everything we do is like Hartford does.
So what I did, just so everybody knows, what I did is I'm going to send this policy back. VSBA gets most of their template policies from Pietro Lynn, from Pietro's our attorney. I'm going to send it to Pietro, just say, is this outdated? Are there going to be some changes to this now based on, the most recent legislative session, and get that information. And then I think we can read through this one more time. I also find the legalese and the footnotes to be incredibly distracting. I mean, I think we need to make this more readable and more language friendly, but we'll work on that and bring it back in June. This was only first reading tonight.
So David, another thing for you to ask to highlight is there's a difference between a legal name change and a birth certificate change. And what would we need to do if there's a birth certificate change, then especially in an adoption, a lot of times you want to wash the database. In other words, things become retroactive. And with a name change, you just change the name with a new identity in the system. Okay, but you have that template. You don't need to go in and basically whitewash that person's name was here.
Yeah.
So I think this, I think you're absolutely right. I think this really needs some legal help.
Yeah, it's
Right. So we will do that.
we will do that.
Yes.
We'll consult with Pietro and VSBA on those pieces, and I think the legislation, you don't have the number of the
No, I
of
don't.
the act, okay. I think the legislation was addressing the last part of what Bill said, which was changing the birth certificate,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
absolutely.
So we'll kind of sort all that out. Needless to say, complex policy, complex issue, but right now we do, just so everybody knows, we do have an internal process of, like Larry described, we do, we do allow preferred names, preferred pronouns. We've worked through all of that, but we need to get this understood in policy as we go forward.
Beth, your hand is raised.
Thank you. Good evening. Just a question about our process around, so our internal process of having their preferred names. It sounded like you needed to have parent permission. And I think that's where it really comes down, is that it's not, do we require parent permission in our current process, even for preferred names? If so, I think we maybe need to reevaluate that and be able to change that.
Yeah. And the principals can correct me on this, because again, it's not codified in policy, but in practice, I think from this is my understanding, from 7 through 12, we respect the student's confidentiality. If they want to prefer a name, they prefer
So
that.
this is, sorry, I'll say, if Jimmy John comes in one day, and says, I want to be called Katie, and he's a third grader, and repeatedly keeps saying that, and mom and dad say, no, 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 what's our policy on that? Because it sounds like we're saying, no, we won't call them Katie. And that doesn't seem, like, where do we stand, and why is the 7th grade the line and not, when is that drawn? And so I think being very clear on that and why we have that, I think would be, to be able to explain that to families really clearly.
And the Hartford process, it doesn't need parental approval for some students. This is mostly applies to high school. They're the only one that's using it this far, but it requires parental involvement so that parents know what's happening, so they don't get a report card that says SpongeBob SquarePants on their child's report card, because that's now their preferred name.
That's totally what I would do, is change mine to
The only concern I have for that is just if there is some safety issues around, maybe they are still residing and the child is still technically residing in the house, but not really, and you have to involve the parent. So, I mean, I just think there is some potential issues with that. And I think, if there's ways to move forward and not have, making sure that staff and faculty are really genuinely following that policy and using people's preferred names all the time, I think is really important.
Well, I remember what I was saying was practice, not policy, right? We don't have, I think that's part of the absence of policy. I think that's why we need to
That's the thing. And
talk about this.
It was explained to me as a great example that you can have it in, on the changed for the student's request, but if it's not changed in, at least to some degree, in the whole school record, then a substitute teacher comes in, looks at the class list, and
Absolutely.
calls a student by their dead name.
Absolutely. And I think the other question is really Beth's question, and I would defer to principals in terms of practice, but I just always thought there was a grade. Now, I'm not saying they should or shouldn't be, but I think right now we do have I don't think we would allow a third grader, this is my thought, without some sort of parental communication, if his name was John, to come in, or their name was John, and come in and say, I would like to be called Katie from now on. I don't think that would happen with a third grader right now. And I think the board should discuss that, because you reflect the morals and convictions of this community. Christine's here, so.
The form, I just found the form, it says, I understand that if I am 17 years or younger, I must have my parents' permission. That's what our protocol is at this point.
So you read that from our protocol.
Yeah.
So it's not even seventh grade. Right now, our protocol is 17 or under needs parental permission to, now I know that I can just tell you that that's not the practice, right now, because I know that there are students in middle school and high school that they're asked, what's your preferred pronoun, what's your preferred name? It's not being changed in the records, but in the classroom with their classmates and with their teachers, it's being used.
Yeah, but it's not, it doesn't go on the form that the
correct.
The substitute teacher.
That's correct.
says.
Yeah. So that's why I
that's a
think this is a critical policy to, and then determine at what ages do you need parental, as you go through the policy.
Right. Or even just parental awareness.
Or parental notification.
It doesn't have to be permission, but
Yeah.
parental awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to navigate it, and then there's the informal, what happens in the classroom versus what's formal.
Right.
Because there sometimes is some changing as you go along, the way, especially with younger students or older students, is they don't want it as a permanent yet. Right. So how do we respect that too? I mean, this is a journey, so.
Right. Nancy, your hand has been raised, then Rebecca, then Bill, and then we are moving on to our next item.
Okay, this was just a quickie for Bill because we changed the name of my youngest son when he was about 9, and it became his new birth certificate.
That's interesting.
That's gonna, tonight's chime in, that's also happened with my family as well. When a name change triggers a change on the birth certificate and they reissue them in the state of Vermont automatically, that was part of the process.
Was that in Vermont, Nancy?
No, it was in Rhode Island, but
Okay.
and his birth certificate is on one of those blue sheets that legal documents are on
Yep.
with his reasons. So that's it.
Thank you. Rebecca.
I just want to go back to what Beth raised, and this is, we really want to be clear. We want to be respectful. We want to engage those who would be part of the conversation, and really, and I know it's a hard conversation, but we want to make sure that it's understood why we would move forward in the direction that we're going. But we really should be clear for the sake of the student first, and also for the sake of the family.
Thank you, Rebecca. Bill? You're muted.
Of course I am. I was unmuted and then I want to talk, so I mute myself. It's probably a good thing if I just mute myself before I talk. But anyway, it's my understanding in the state of Vermont, as being a parent, that legally, students at the age of 14 gather significantly more rights when they turn 14. One, within the custody cases, that and students have a lot more influence in the courts to choose residence between split parents. They have a lot more say with medical decisions. I had two 14-year-old daughters, and when they turned 14 and went into a doctor's appointment, I was ushered out of the room because I no longer needed in there. I'm no longer wanted. And so that's sort of that's sort of an age of change. And I think that's one thing we should look at, that particular age and how it influences other legal stances.
Thank you. We will do a significant amount of research before we bring this back to the board. So, thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be worth taking the time.
Yes, indeed. Next, we have policy C14, section 504 and ADA grievance protocol for students and staff. So let's see where we are on that. Find that one. I lost it on mine. Yes, it does appear. So we have done a first reading was done in March, second reading April 25th. So we can put this as an item for action unless anyone has.
Yeah, and Katie, you've reviewed this pretty carefully, right?
I can speak to the changes that I made, if you'd like, or based on our last conversation that reflect that. Would that be helpful? So the last time we met, we talked about splitting out that if it's an employee, the employee would make the complaint directly to the 504 coordinator, which is my position, instead of the building-based person, which would be up here. We tried to separate that out because in effect, Tina and I have done all the ADA and 504s for staff. And the other is we took out names was the other piece because I will use kidnapped by aliens versus hit by the bus analogy this time. But it's important. So it's like your kidnapped by aliens subplans. That's how well you should write them. It's the same thing with policies. We should refer to the position, not the person.
Yeah.
So those were that's all. Step 2 was to just split that out. Employee may file, looks like a word was left out, may file a written complaint and be submitted to District 504 coordinator. Student complaints may be submitted to either District 504 coordinator or appropriate school-specific 504 coordinator.
Which section is that, Katie? I just want
That's
to
all on step 2, and it looks like some words were left out, but it's supposed to read, an employee may submit a written complaint to the district section 504 coordinator, which is Windsor Southeast Director of Student Services. That's multiple titles I get. So I just think the change would need to be just cleaning up the grammar there. I apologize for that. We've gone back and forth a few times with Lori to make sure the changes were made.
Okay.
I move we adopt the policy that as incorporating Katie.
Those changes.
Changes. Bill has his hand up.
Okay.
Oh, Bill has his hand up.
Second.
So
Okay.
do I still have time to make a request of a change?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I may have missed it. I would really prefer, and I think David would back me up on this because we had this issue in contracts. He/she be replaced with they.
Yeah.
Because not everyone identifies as he /
Yeah,
she.
she.
Right.
Where do you see a he and she, Bill? Just
Step 3, the first sentence.
okay, thank you. I see it. Got it.
Okay.
I'll make that comment.
Okay, and let me see. Misty Bowden, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, sorry, really off topic, but I don't know who's letting people into the meeting, but I do know there's a few parents who have been trying to get in. Just a heads up, I don't know if you see them on there, but anyway, just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
I'll keep looking. I haven't seen anybody, Misty, but I'll look on, because it pops right onto my screen, but I'll keep looking. I wonder if they're on the right link.
Yeah, they could be on the wrong link.
I'm going to resend the link. I believe they have the right one, but I'll send it again.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So with the correction, there'll be a little bit of correction in the language on.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, and correcting for he, she, changing that to they. With those corrections, I will do a roll call of votes of people in favor of approving this policy, starting with Anne Marie.
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Did I scare you?
No.
She's been there all night.
I'm looking down this list.
Aye.
We're moving on.
Hybrid meetings. And I'm almost over them. Elizabeth?
Aye.
And I, Amy, am an aye. So this policy for 504 and 88.
And we'll make those changes.
Has
Good.
been, yes, with those changes. Thank you. Next up, we have a third policy on pupil privacy rights. And that's another one I don't seem to have.
I can put it in the, I can put it in the chat.
So let's see. Okay, so this, again, this is another first reading. So if people haven't had the opportunity, I know I have read through it. I just, for whatever reason, I cannot find it this evening.
Which is why Larry's updating me as you point
Yes, thank you. So does anyone have any comments or questions on that right now? Seeing no hands being raised. Thank you, Nikki, for sharing your screen. So we will move on. Policy on pupil privacy rights will be on our next agenda for second reading.
Okay.
Next, we have item C and items for discussion, curriculum updates. We have Brittany, Angie, and Patty.
So can I share my screen?
Yes, you
The
can.
best way to do this?
Yeah, right from your laptop. If you want to come up to the table, you can, but I think that's fine.
I probably should so that Al picks me up.
Yeah, voice-wise.
So
Yeah,
Al
good
will
point.
pick-
Yeah,
Al will pick
good,
up.
good point.
No, I can't see behind me, but I can see my screen. I have to log into the Meet first.
Oh, there's only a couple in the.
Yeah, hold up.
I think one of them's back here and that one.
Yeah.
You're sharing your screen, Angie, right?
Oh, Mickey. Just break it?
She does play hockey, you know. Don't let her go near
Don't
anything
know your own
glass.
strength.
All right, here we go. Look at that. I love that CIA team. It always sounds covert.
It is.
I like it.
Yes, don't you hear the music? Bum,
Oh,
bum, na, 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 bum. Na, na, na. Sorry about that.
Just that one.
Oh, that was easy.
Man.
Did that flash another screen?
You
Oh,
got it.
good, because I was closing tabs and I had a tab on
You got
there
it.
that
No,
I
it's
didn't
good.
need somebody.
Oh,
To see.
I was like, oh shoot, I'm closing it fast,
careful.
but it was a working tab that, yeah.
We got it.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. So the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment team has put together this end of year report to update you on all our fantastic progress that we made this year. We are going to talk about differentiated professional learning, Frontline, the MTSS model, a curriculum update, a data update, grants progress report, other CIA work. And I just want to point out to you that down here in the corner, you can see on each of the slides, we've aligned the work of the team with the strategic plan goal. So that's what SP goal means. Okay. So the team coming at you tonight is Patty Gray, our Title II instructional coach. Brittany Preston, our ESSER 2 and 3 recovery coordinator, but really the MTSS and data coordinator. We like that title better. And myself as the grants manager, director of curriculum. And then Lori Small, one of our teachers from Wethersfield, is going to be here to talk about work with the differentiated professional learning team. So.
All right, so I'll jump in. I've been working with Patty and Angie on the differentiated professional learning model. And we wanted to gather a group of amazing teachers to join us in that work. So I've listed them all here. If you're having a hard time reading it, you have Jen Driscoll, Karen Carl, Zach O'Brien, Christy Keeney, Tori Moeller, Kim Gogan, Lori Small, Stephen Malloy, Patty Gray, myself, and Angie. And this team is really working on rethinking how we're doing professional development for our staff, trying to model the idea of voice and choice for our staff, just like we hope to do with our students, and self-direction, goal setting, all of those wonderful things. Very overwhelming task because there's a lot that we have to do. COVID kind of put a damper in making sure that staff are really all kind of up to date on the baseline of trainings that we really need, such as collaborative problem solving, things like that. So how do we move forward, get everybody on the same page, and then make sure we have a differentiated plan moving forward that's really aligned with our strategic plan and the goals that our teachers have moving forward. And then considering, you know, this visual that we have here is actually going to go for a final review with the team, but I wanted to share with you what we came up with just to model our vision for PD moving forward. I know it's super small, I apologize, but the idea would be that we create a strong base with a new teacher academy, making sure teachers are coming to us and they have all of the information and all of the training that they need to be successful. Then followed by ongoing growth with alignment to our kind of core areas that we really want to make sure that all teachers have, CPS, Leader in Me, trauma-informed practices, curriculum and instruction. And then in the leaves, there's a variety of different ways that they could access that information, whether it be PLCs, external sources. We have kind of them being mentors, also workshops, coaching, I mean, just a variety of different things, all leading up to kind of developing their own specialties, which all falls under kind of our circle around the outside, MTSS, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's a lot going on there, but that's because we have a lot to do. So,
just tell me when you need.
oh yeah, you can go on. Sorry, I'm clicking on mine as if it's making a difference. So our goal here is reimagining professional learning. I created a little bit of a timeline so you can see a summary of where we hope to be in a few years. This year we worked on creating a PD inventory. What do staff need moving forward? Developing our new teacher academy, and then we're working currently, and we will be through the summer, kind of revamping our mentor development, our mentor plan, to really bolster that and make sure that staff are getting what they need throughout those first couple of years that they're in employment. In FY23, we are going to implement our new teacher academy. Frontline, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, but we have some really exciting new stuff to kind of go from what Larry kind of brought Frontline in with absentee, and we're going to be absentee management, and we're going to be bringing on some additional things with Frontline to really help us move forward with professional development.
Wait, I'm sorry. Sure. Is Frontline the name of a program?
Yeah, Frontline is what we're currently using for time cards and employee absent management. And then it's a much larger system than that. So we're going to get into that. Yeah. Developing mentoring, coaching, getting kind of our teachers up to date on their prerequisite trainings, developing some train the trainers so we can build some capacity for moving forward, and then our evaluation process, which we talked a little bit about already. In FY24, we're hoping to be all good to go on Frontline and really rolling that up with all staff. New Teacher Academy should be completely up and running. The new supervision evaluation system should be going, which would be connected to our professional development, and then really getting our individual professional growth track moving forward. That's the whole, that's a very tight timeline, but I think we can do it. I'm going to let Patty chime in. She's been doing a lot of the work on the New Teacher Academy. So Patty, if you're in there somewhere.
She's in somewhere.
I'm still here.
All right.
I'm still here. So one of the things that we've really been talking a lot about is bolstering our induction program, or what we are calling now our New Teacher Academy, and really supporting them far more than we have been able to previously, because we know that teacher retention is a tremendous issue right now, and attrition of teachers, it largely comes about due to stress and a lack of support around curriculum and instructional practices, behavior management, all of those things. So we want to not only start them with the essential trainings that they need at the onset to really understand and be able to navigate the systems we have in place, but then to bring in our mentoring program, which we are revising and tweaking to make it even stronger. Angie's been running this amazing mentoring program. And the more we can make the best use out of that, the better. And then bringing in, for the first 2 years, instructional coaching, so that they have, alongside their mentor, the new teachers have someone they can sit down and look at curriculum and instructional practices with, as much as they determine they need. And of course, that's self-driven, but there will be, at this point, we're thinking monthly meetings where they can have that support and have an additional person to bounce ideas off of.
I have a question.
Elizabeth?
Sorry, I need to just quickly interrupt with a question about when you mean new teacher, when you say New Teacher Academy, is that for teachers who are entering the profession, or teachers who are entering our supervisory union?
That's a great question.
You say differentiated, is that what accounts for the difference in the some of it? Okay.
Correct. And Elizabeth, it would be for both. And the supports that we might give a teacher brand new to the profession could or might look very different than what we might give someone who's coming in from another SU and really just needs support around learning our systems and programs and curriculum, if that makes sense.
And that is something that we're going to be talking about at our next meeting, which is coming up this Thursday, to talk about what does that differentiation look like for staff. But one piece of thinking that we want to really implement here is if a staff member comes in with like collaborative problem solving training or something like that, we don't need to redo this. We don't need to keep, like doing it over and over again and having them sit through trainings that they don't need. We want to make sure we're taking them from wherever they're at and giving them additional support. So that's the goal, that everybody would have kind of like a professional learning profile that's individualized just for them.
Thank you. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's perfect. Angie, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Lori, who came and was so patient. I owe her big time. I owe her a lot, like lots. But she's a member of our team, and they are doing some amazing work on this process and developing it moving forward. So I wanted to give her an opportunity to chat about what we're going to look for. Yeah, come on up here. That way you can
He can be on the owl.
Here, steal David's chair.
Yeah, steal my chair, go for it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Always wanted this, if you wanted to look at that while you're.
Right. Wow. So Brittany has kind of briefed you anyways, but as far as from a teacher perspective, looking at this particular slide, I started from the bottom and went up. Because most of the teachers have, at the end of the year, beginning of the year, even at mid-year, they're saying, oh, I've got to do something different here, or it's a different class, or the content isn't rolling like I thought. So there is a lot of reflection, and it's a major benefit for a teacher to do that. So what happens is that we try to think of what we need to improve ourselves for our growth and for our needs. And that's when we go into asking for help, getting that professional development that we individually need. Then from there, we can actually, and I'm hoping this might be a goal, is having the coaching and peer support of our, veteran teachers and people who have so much experience and expertise to maybe even have a directory of saying, behavior, classroom management, or maybe I need verbiage for some trauma-inflicted students, to call upon those particular people who have expertise and, help support your need for that. Then we'll go on to the differentiated, I can put my glasses on, based on the teacher's needs. And this is when the teacher has that individual need that she or he needs help with, to give them that flexibility to focus on the training, and to get support from administration to either embed that in our curriculum or our professional development, or call upon the needs of our peers. And then lastly, as I'm going right from bottom to the top, having that goal in place, like you've mentioned with our frontline, with our evaluation system, to have that goal and then show the accountability for our growth. So that's kind of where we're at as a teaching perspective, and hopefully this will go well. Because instead of like reiterating things that, most teachers have already gone through, some of the courses that they've nailed, and now they can actually bring it to their classrooms, and then those teachers can actually help the newbies or the wannabes, to improve themselves.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have one final meeting this week, actually, and then there's an optional one-day work day for that same committee to come and join on June 21st, where we're going to be kind of mapping out. Hopefully we'll have next year pretty much set with just some tweaks, but starting to think about what are we going to do? How can we create a committee and have those committees, the DPL committee, Differential Professional Learning, and evaluation system, kind of work together to develop a new evaluation system. And then really looking at the following year, how can we now actually start to move past just getting the basics done for everybody, getting everybody on the same page, to really differentiating learning for our staff. So that's the plan. It's really exciting. And Lori's, you're amazing for being a trooper.
Thank you.
Coming out here with us.
Thank you. It is exciting though. 'Cause
It
it's something
is.
that we all have an interest in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very passionate group. They're
I'm gonna
amazing.
Scoot out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're welcome to stay.
So now I can talk a little bit about that frontline system. I can talk a little bit about the frontline system. So we decided, we did a lot of research trying to figure out like what can we use, what platform can we use to start managing some of this professional learning. So in looking at that, Frontline, which Larry has talked quite a bit about with you all, has professional learning management system that is pretty awesome. It's very customizable. You can actually create a bank of professional learning opportunities and a schedule so staff can come in and sign up for different learning opportunities. Staff can request learning opportunities. Staff can say, hey, I want to offer something. They could offer it. It all gets linked to our strategic plan, which is pretty exciting as well. And then it tracks it for staff. The other thing that it does is we can put in mandatory trainings. Really simple ones are bloodborne pathogens or mandatory reporting, and it alerts staff when those things are due and then alerts administration when they need to be done. It also does an approval process. So if staff want to take a course or whatever, we just went through and did all the linking so that it goes to the right people at the right times with the right documentation, and then goes back to the staff with all of the information that they need to be able to take a course. So that's really cool. The other piece that we are going to be implementing next year just with our current evaluation system to start is the employee evaluation management system. That again can be linked to our strategic plan. You can put in, the principal can do an evaluation. They can recommend certain trainings that are in our professional learning management system. So all of that gets linked. Eventually, we hope to, like I said, we're going to redo the evaluation system. And so all the goal setting will be tracked in there and everything. It's going to be beautiful. Super excited. The other great part about it is obviously having just one place for staff to go. So with professional learning, for example, a staff member can say, I want a certain training. Oh, I need a sub for that. And then it all goes through the same system. So now they're requesting subs and tracking absences as well. Yeah, one-stop shop. That's the goal. So make it easy for staff. But it'll be a slow rollout because it's a lot. But they're already kind of in Frontline right now doing the time cards. So hopefully it'll go smoothly.
And it is possible because of ESSER funding, just so you know.
Yep. Can they take as many classes as they want? Trainings as they want?
So yes, I mean, so if they're offered by us or if they're free trainings or whatever, yes. They still have their PD funds, which they would have to request access for or whatever, but within the system, there's no limit to what they can take. So one very basic thing is I can create a whole bunch of video trainings and put them all in the system and people can take them. I need a refresher on MTSS, here's a video training, or I really want to talk to Brittany directly, I'm going to request a training, those kinds of things. So yeah, there's no
really
real
cool.
limit. Yeah, I think it'll take a while to get everything in, but it's going to be fantastic. So really exciting.
Rebecca, you have a question?
Brittany, I was wondering with the Frontline system, if staff participated in selecting that, because I know you mentioned Larry. It sounds like a great system, but I was wondering if staff participated in selecting Frontline.
So I don't know about it from Larry's side of things. I know that when we talked to the DPL team, there was a need for how are we going to track this. I attempted to do it through our current evaluation system, which is Vector, formerly known as TeachPoint. And there was just no way it was going to have the capacity to meet our needs. So Larry suggested we looked at Frontline. As we looked into it, I brought it to the DPL team, the Differentiated Professional Learning team. They reviewed it, and then I had a staff member participate in our first configuration meeting with Frontline so that they could give their input as to what this might look like, what are some things that we need to put into that system. So yes, but it was a system that we already had in place.
except for we're just adding it and using more components of it. All right. Any other questions so far? Okay, great. Angie, if you want to go to the next one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about MTSS. We've done a lot of work with our MTSS teams this year, and we are looking to build upon what we've already done so far. The first box here talks about, well, this is a new leadership model, kind of. We're going to expand on our leadership model. We currently have MTSS coordinators, I could not do my job without them. And there's one from each building. Lindsay Perkins is at Heartland. Bridget Ferriel is at Windsor. Amanda Yates is at Albert Bridge. And Kristen Hubner and Melissa Cole are doing that work together over at Wethersfield. And their jobs really have been, okay, how are we taking the common MTSS systems, protocols, documentation systems that we put in place this year and making sure that everybody knows how to use them, has enough support. We're looking at a lot of the data with the MTSS coordinators to adjust our practices. And then we're currently looking at, okay, what are the pros and cons of some of the documentation systems and the organization systems and adjusting those so that they're all set, ready to go for next year. And one way that we're kind of building capacity is we're going to be training MTSS team leaders. And the difference there is that every pod in every building will have one teaching staff. Some of them are interventionists, some of them are classroom teachers who will be trained in meeting facilitation, data practices, and our documentation system so that they can facilitate those meetings and really keep tabs on how those are going. And they're going to get support then from myself, the MTSS coordinators, Angie and Patty, in order to be able to keep the system moving. So the idea is create as many leaders as we possibly can so that the information kind of flows down. Data leaders are rolled into one or both of those MTSS coordinators or MTSS team leader positions. Our goal next year is to have data practices happening monthly with every pod. Currently, I think staff are looking at data, but there's not a formal process in how to do so. So we're gonna put a process to that to make sure it's really organized and people know how to use data effectively in their instruction. So that's another exciting thing. We've got a couple of people already jumping on board with that team. So I'm gonna keep moving that forward. I talked a little bit about effective data practices. Patty and I have both gotten trained in the DataWise process. So that is what we are going to be using to train our data leaders and MTSS coordinators in, and MTSS team leaders. Everybody's going to get trained. So that we are really making the most of all of the data that we have. We have a lot of it now, and it's organized in a couple different ways. We have the dashboards, we have data spreadsheets for every class, and then we have Performance Matters, which is the system that I use to organize all the data. So really excited about that. We're going to be doing, our MTSS coordinators are going to shift slightly to doing more SU-wide data review and support planning. So really looking at our overall SU data and then talking about action plans and what we're going to do moving forward with that information. And then I talked a little bit about the team level monthly data meetings, which is our data practices that we will be implementing and that will be run by our MTSS team leaders. Talked really quickly, I apologize, but hopefully you got the gist. It's just really late.
Are there any questions before we go on to this portion? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Angie or Patty, one of you was going to do, unless you want me to do this.
I think that was me.
Okay. Yeah.
So this year we have put into place some some new structures for reviewing curriculum. We've created a curriculum review committee process. So the steps that we take when we're looking at a particular curriculum, say writing, which we did this year. And then also we've come up with a curriculum and assessment review and adoption cycle, which we won't show you right now. It's I think it's in its final form of draft, but it's a 7-year cycle, and you can see it here. So the first year we would study and evaluate a program or curriculum, which this year we looked at writing, and we actually piloted a program. We had some really great teachers who piloted that, and we met several times during the school year and came to a final determination that it was not the right fit for our SU, and that was a little frustrating, but it was well worth the process so that we could really determine what we need in a program that's really going to impact the learning of our students. Next year, we are going to continue to look at writing. We are going to be piloting an updated version of Eureka Maths. It's called Eureka Math Squared. The Eureka Math folks took feedback from thousands of teachers nationwide, and they have updated their program to make it much more equitable, inclusive, user-friendly, student-friendly, much more accessible. And so that would be year 2, where we would either design, and in this case, we're not really designing, but we're going to adopt and pilot. And actually, I wish that was switched. Piloted and then adopted.
Yes.
But that's okay. And then the third year is full implementation. And of course, we'd provide professional development throughout this whole process in supporting staff in using these programs. And then years 4 through 7 are really continuing to do that work, but tweaking however we need to do it, refining and continuing to get better in our practices and using the curricular programs that we do adopt.
Patty, can I chime in with one more thing?
Absolutely.
The other thing that we want to try to do is, teachers, you get a curriculum, it's never perfect. There is no perfect curriculum. So you're constantly supplementing or whatever. And we want to be able to take the curriculum, continue on with our teams, and make sure that we're providing guidance as to what supplementing might look like for our different programs so that we continue to have consistency versus a teacher who might, rightfully so, go and grab something that they've done their research and they really think it's a great thing. We could take on that and maybe share that out with the rest of the SU so that everybody's using something consistent.
Right.
So that's what we want to do. And then working on taking all of this information and putting it into curriculum maps so that teachers have a really good, okay, here's what we're doing, here's when the assessments are going to happen, here's about the timeline where you should be at certain areas, just to give some very clear guidance around that, which I think will also help over time us look at our data and really have some consistent information moving forward and know that the data that we're looking at is because we're using the curriculum with fidelity and it's research-based and so on and so forth. So that's the ultimate goal.
That's good. You totally just stole my lines.
My bad.
I was going to mention that, yes, and the ultimate goal is to have that fidelity and that consistency so that we can look at the data and decide where we need to go, what our next steps are. So as I mentioned, this year we looked at writing. We did an intensive deep dive into the science, the research behind what makes sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the word that I want.
Effective.
A quality writing program, effective writing program. We've done the same thing looking at the Eureka Math. We looked at all of the research on the original Eureka Math. We took feedback from staff, what's working, what's not working. We had all of the criteria. If you look at the research behind an effective math program, we took those data points and collected feedback from staff on all of those. And so that's how we made the determination to go forward with a pilot for next year. And we are currently collecting volunteers for that pilot process. Angie, next slide, I think.
All right, and we're back to me. The data, Angie, did you share with the board already? The
I
the
haven't.
PDF of this. So we do have a PDF of this that will come to the board. So I'm going to kind of go relatively quickly because I know it's late.
We can also post it on the SU, on the curriculum site.
Yep, and most of it, almost all of it is pulled from our data dashboard anyway, so it's already public. But so I took our recovery plan goals and just added some data points here. So attendance for the last, in terms of engagement and truancy, attendance has been a little all over the map. And of course, absences have been relatively high. We know this. I think the data really follows the trends of what we're seeing in our schools, especially right in December, as you can see at all the schools. And then I think here, Albert Bridge is the only one who did not spike here in the spring, although I only did through April, so after
Looks just
May
like
might
the
have.
COVID tracker.
I know,
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, it's telling, and I mean, it's not surprising. So moving over into academic achievement, I updated these charts for math and ELA with our TMP results. So you can see all the way back from fall of 2019 to spring of 2022 in both areas. And we are certainly recovering and continuing to recover, but I am pretty happy with our progress. And our growth rates, I know I reported on this last time, I didn't put it in this slideshow, but the growth rates continue to be really high compared to the national average. So that's amazing to see. Our students are recovering quickly.
Can you remind us again what a growth rate tells us?
Yeah, a growth rate just says whether a student is progressing at an average rate or whether they are progressing higher and so on. I think last time math was around it was like around the 3 something progress rate, and the national average is 1.
Nice.
So, I
very
have to ask this every time, and I apologize.
It's quite all right.
But these are supervisory union-wide,
Yes.
and are they the same grade tracked over these years, or are they, sixth grade in 2019, sixth grade in
This is all grades. So any grade who took the Track My Progress, this is all grades. If you want to see a breakdown of, like, let's say the current 6th grade and what their scores were back in fall of 2019 all the way to now, that's on our dashboard, which is on the website. So it'll say current 6th grade, and it'll track just that 6th grade all the way back to fall of 2019. So yeah, it's all there, but this is just for SEY. Yeah. All right. So this, again, academic achievement, I broke it down by free and reduced lunch status, non-free and reduced lunch status. So those are all color coded there. And then I also broke it down by gender. So you can see there actually has not been a ton of change from one year, or from fall of 2021 on, but some, especially in math, actually. So moving on, goal number 3 was social emotional learning, mental health and well-being. And that was our panorama survey. We gave that in the fall, late in the fall, and then again this spring. And so you can see I compared, December is actually winter, I guess, to April. So you can see the answers and how they compare. Supportive relationships obviously continues to be our highest. And so on. I mean, keeping in mind April, we're coming up on assessments and things like that, which is tough. It's a horrible time to give a mental health survey. Or maybe it's a good time, I don't know. But
Are all of the scores supposed to be high?
Are all of the, it's based on how they responded positively. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't tell from the category.
Yeah.
Emotional regulation.
Yeah, emotional, it's tricky, but it's based on positive comments. Yeah.
So we have some work to do.
responses. Yes, we do. Yep.
And the kids recognize they have some work to do.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You all set?
Yep. I think it's on to you.
So the ESSERs, ESSER 1 is, I'm not going to read through the amounts. You can see the amounts, those are pretty bold, but ESSER 1, we finished up the total grant was expensed, and it was Summer Academy 2021, mostly taken out of that, health supports, transportation, and some other things, including substitutes and in the year of FY21. ESSER 2, we probably will have a few more amendments before that we're finished up with that one. Again, that helped us with Summer Academy, teachers, and a 9-12 peer mentor. That's a small investment. School nurse support for Wethersfield, our recovery coordinator, our Leader in Me investment, the Panorama survey for the social emotional learning data that we just looked at. We were able to purchase some We Are Hope support. Transitional kindergarten, that entire program is funded through ESSER and will be supported again in ESSER 3. There were technology upgrades to our network, the electronic time card system, and the professional learning and supervision evaluation software that we saw that Brittany was talking about earlier. ESSER 3, I'm happy to report that it is probably in the final stages of getting approved. I just had to do one little tweak thing, which I was very happy about. And that was basically most of the same investments that we had in ESSER 2 with no school nurse supports. And then some tech upgrades that include access points. And then, of course, it's Summer Academy for the next 2 years. And the investments for the teachers are for the next 2 years for FY 23 and 24. Are there any questions? Okay. Title I and Title II. Title I is these are our consolidated federal programs, grants. And Title I is its primary intention is to support student learning. We have investments in family engagement, homeless support. We have 2 interventionists at Windsor, 2 interventionists at Heartland, and half-time interventionists at Wethersfield. Unfortunately, the 2 positions at Windsor and Wethersfield went unfilled this year. We're hoping again to get the Wethersfield one is not happening next year, but the 2 Windsor positions we're hoping to fill. After school tutoring, and that there was some summer, maybe some summer school. I can't remember. I don't think so. Anyway, the support Title II supports teacher and administrative learning, and that is my position as well as Patty's. Sometimes in Title II, I'm able to invest in things like mentoring. And next year, we're going to be able to put monies towards training new mentors and giving our current mentors more training in the Danielson framework, which is the framework that we use to improve instruction. This year, we had 4 English language learners join our supervisory union. We this timeline shows you a little bit of it. We had a little bit of a rough start. We hired a consultant, Rachel Rosenblum, who has been fantastic. She is an ELL teacher in Essex Westford School District. She helped us get a teacher hired who started in December and then for personal reasons left a few weeks later. Then we had Stephanie come on and in February. Stephanie has worked in the area as a preschool teacher, and then she tells me how much she loves this job with her lovely students. So she works half-time. And Rachel administered our WIDA access assessments. Those are the assessments that determine whether or not a child is eligible for English language learner services. And this spring, we created the ELL program documentation that's going to be part of and included in a student's file and part of the MTSS process in each building. Each year, this time of year right now, our kindergarten class for next fall is being screened, and those home language surveys are very important for helping us identify students who may be in need of English language learning supports.
Can I just ask a quick question? Because I
Sure.
got an email about it earlier this evening or just before this meeting. And it has to do with kindergarten screening.
Oh,
and it says, Why is the cutoff September 1st when the state law requires January 1st?
For the, for what? For the age?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, David?
We went through this in Heartland a few times.
Yeah.
I thought it was a board thing.
No.
I thought it was a board directive.
Oh, a board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that the board determined that.
Yeah, we did.
You've had that date as long as I've been here, so I don't know how you came to that date. I know a lot of districts did want to back that up a little bit in terms of developmental readiness for K. And the state allows up to January 1st for a cutoff. So it, you'll see them most are September 1st. I'm talking statewide now. When I say most, that's anecdotal, but some are October 1st. It's really up to the board policy. Right now,
We have a policy?
you decided somewhere that September 1st would be the cutoff. It's in policy, isn't it?
Somewhere.
Yes.
And along with that, just related, we did for TK last year, because we had spots, we set up to December 1st if they would consider TK, if we had students, so that there is a little bit of that wiggle room, and in part because, as what David said, kindergarten readiness for a 4.5-year-old is very different than kindergarten readiness for a 5-year-old in September.
Exactly.
Because, right, there's a significant difference.
Yeah.
And developmentally, and especially with our kindergarten standards.
And do we have TK at all 4 schools?
TK is still only at Heartland because, as an SU-wide program, we provide busing from the different schools. We've managed to do that from students coming from Windsor and Heartland. We didn't have a Weathersfield or an Albert Bridge TK student this year. But that's an SU-wide program. Eventually, we'd love to have TK in every building. But for right now, we don't. What we do have though for next year is 2 full-time pre-Ks that will have any student or have the eligibility to have access to in Windsor School, 2 full-time pre-K classrooms that go up to age 5. Any student who's not eligible for kindergarten is eligible for our pre-K 3 and 4-year-old program. So we're building capacity for those younger students, but at least it doesn't, it's related because I imagine that the question probably rooted in my child's going to be 5 by this date. Why is it when the state says it could be that? So we are able to meet some of those needs, whether it's through pre-K or TK. So I would encourage that family to reach out if they're interested in. We will put out for TK.
Who should I send them to?
We're doing one of us.
Okay.
We've been doing the TK
He's
piece.
just finished K registration. We'll meet with the teams, connect with parents of students recommended for TK, and then if we don't fill the spots, we'll open it up. So
Okay. Thank you. Sorry to waylay for a second.
Okay, our mentoring program that we talked about earlier, I just wanted to let you know that we had 17 new teachers. Those are, in the mentoring program, we classify a new teacher as a teacher with 5 or fewer years experience. They also could be somebody that is returning to teaching after some time off. We had 15 mentors for those for those new teachers, and that's 21 hours of observation. 21 hours of meeting, including an observation that the mentor teacher does of the mentee twice a year. Mentor guides are for our experienced teachers who have more than 5 years of experience. Those are teachers that come to us from other systems that have been teaching for a while, or teachers, it depends if we have a teacher in the building that changes grade level. If they're just making a small, like a few years grade level, they may or may not need a mentor, or they may get a mentor guide. So we do have some flexibility with how the mentor program meets the needs of our teachers. Those mentor stipends are paid locally in each of the buildings as well. And just a final thank you and contact information. If you have any questions, you can also access our website. The address is there. You can also access that through the SU website. If you go under curriculum, it'll bring you there. Okay,
Thank
thank you.
That was a lot. That was good.
I know, it was a lot.
We've
It's
been
a year.
really busy lately. Yeah. It's all like coming
Stop presenting. All yours now, Katie.
All right.
Katie with Summer Academy.
Yes, so I'm going to try to present.
Call you in the next couple of days to sort of talk about that.
Let's see if I can do that one. Yes. All up to my email.
It sounds like
Okay.
you're busy. So
That was quick. You're already presenting while you're walking up.
That's my multitasking.
That's ambidextrous or quadridextrous?
No, motivated to go home.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's
Good.
Yes. So I'll do speed talking. So Summer Academy 2022, termed Fun in the Sun, in part because we were struggling to find something and we want to have fun and we want to go outside. So I think that's where everybody's brain went to after this weekend. It also gives us some flexibility for themes. So this year, wait, that went right to the wrong slide, which is weird. It's all out of order.
Is it going backwards?
That's not right.
No. So, sorry, there's Christine was sitting next to me. She saw it. It was all there. Let me stop sharing for a second.
Find the right tab.
Find the right tab and why
What program did you use again?
Google Slides. Did it stop sharing? It did. I apologize. Escape out of that. No, that's very odd. Okay, so I'm going to try the slideshow again. Well, so if you can see here, there's actually other slides. There's the one I want to show you because it's pretty relevant to how many kids we have coming. So I'll try one more time. If not, you'll just have to put up with my voice.
It'll work this time.
Record this computer. No.
You want to share it with me, Katie, and I project it?
I'll put it in the drive.
Let's
and
try
I'll
it
pull it up.
one more time. Let's see. I even am using the computer that share a tab, that tab, share. Okay, and slideshow.
It's trying again.
Yep, well, it's trying. I'm not sure if it's going to work again. All right, so let's see if I tap once, if it gets to it. Nope. It doesn't it is weird. So I'm just going to go to not.
Exit the slideshow. I saw the slideshow looking for.
Yeah.
So
click
we
on
could
it
do that.
there and see if it comes up.
So this is so that's the main stuff that I want you to see. We have 92, excuse me. It literally changed by 3 students today. It's a moving target, so I should have put, warning, temporary, tentative numbers. But sugaring out right now, 2 from ABS, 39 from Heartland. Yes, Christine's Building won the award for getting more kids registered. Weathersfield is 17, which is pretty much exactly where it was last year, and Windsor is 35. We have with the grades entering, it doesn't equate to classrooms right now because of the numbers and where the students came in, we have a couple of entering K/1 classrooms. We'll have one entering second, entering third class because grade, for example. 6 through 8 is actually going to split up. And it's just because of how student numbers sugared out. The only class that will have 2 is the K and entering first students with a couple entering seconds. We just had a bubble, not enough to make 2, but certainly developmentally, it made sense to have the range. So some of the challenges we faced in planning this year, support staff, we only had 9 support staff apply to participate. And last year we had 5 HCRSBIs contracted, and I think it was 14 in-house support staff. We significantly had a different number, and it shifted to, we had a lot of classroom teachers or related arts teachers apply, which is great, except they're also more expensive. So budget-wise, it didn't come out as well as we would hope, but we have enough staff to do what we need. The 6 of those support staff will actually be one-on-ones for students with more intensive needs that are coming to Summer Academy as part of their ESY. With the exception of very few, we're under 8. All of the students identified have been, so 80 plus, have been through our MTSS system.
Either were identified through the TMP scores or by teacher recommendation afterwards, and which is great. So that shows our system's working.
What does ESY stand for?
Extended school year in special education. Thank you. I throw my acronyms out too much. So the classroom teachers outnumbered applicants, which was a good problem to have. So it means we have in almost all the classrooms 2 certified teachers in each one. And administration-wise, we're going to rotate like we did last summer, and with the exception of the admin retreat. So that's another plus. So how much does this cost? And okay, that's probably smaller than any of you would really like. And this actually did work for the slideshow. Let me see if I can show it so it's bigger. Hey, we got a winner.
All right.
So these are for so I want to couch this in. This is taking into account that staff show up every single day. Last year, that did not happen. So this is, well, it didn't. People got sick, and it's a time card thing. So if they don't come, they're not paid. So this is the extent of what we're going to end up costing us. I'm sure it will come in less. We already know a few teachers will say, I'm going to be out this day or what. So 12 classroom teachers that will be working with students directly in the classroom. We are still aiming to keep class sizes between 10 and 12, adhering to what we did last year, which was really that small group intensive instruction. 1 school counselor who will also serve as our float to sub, because we need somebody that's other than the administrator who's around, which we did that too. 1 school nurse, because we found with COVID that definitely helped, plus regular school nursing stuff that happens. 3 support staff and supplies. That all comes out of ESSER. What Angie mentioned earlier, our budget for ESSER for that is exactly 90,000. So we're right at 91.4. I am sure we'll be under that, give or take, people taking days. The other part of our summer academy is also paid through the American Rescue Plan, so ARP IDEA B, like our ARP ESSER. We have an IDEA B, which is special education funding only. One person will be our new mental health clinician. We have a new school-to-home mental health clinician that I'll tell you about next month when she signs her contract. Yay! Sorry, I'm so excited about this. As you can tell, she will be here part-time during the summer. 1 BCBA, because we still need those supports during the summer for all students. 6.5 special educators or pre-K teachers, because our early childhood program technically isn't covered under ESSER, but I can cover it under ARP IDEA B, is how we did it last year too in special ed, so our pre-K could also run. And 6 support staff will be a total there. Oh, and I forgot, I'll just go back up for a second. Transportation, last year we had 3 buses because we did have a bus coming from Albert Bridge. This year we're going to have 2 buses, and we're working out van transportation for the Albert Bridge students because there's only 2 students, and it just didn't warrant the cost of a bus. And we have vans, so we'll be doing that. So this 32 staff total. So our total with all of our different funding sources right now comes to $143,250. And if I remember correctly, last year, oh, Elizabeth, sorry.
Sorry, I have a very quick, I swear, philosophical question, and that is, so mental health clinicians are classified in the same category as special ed?
It's being paid for out of ARP IDEA.
It's just a funding. Okay.
It's a funding
source.
Yes, it's a funding source.
Okay.
And there's a whole piece of, that's our current school-to-home coordinator is actually funded out of special education as well.
Okay.
So fitting in with our SPSS supports. And with our change with 173, it all makes sense. We've made sure all students have access. It just sometimes gets a little creative. This has been less creative next year, which is good. Last year it was 180,000 and change. I think 180,669, if I remember correctly from my notes, because now I'm on full screen. Plus another approximately 30,000 for special ed. So we are coming in significantly under, but servicing about the same number of students. The students who've accepted this time we were very clear with families. They need to come for the 4 weeks. If they're only coming 3 weeks, as long as we had room, and that worked out okay. We have a few little classroom spots. If someone, a teacher still sees somebody that was off the list or came in, that we may be able to fill with our current staffing levels, we could do. But we are doing this with significantly less funds from last year. So our hope is not participating, but we do have the mental health clinician and the school counselor being able to be available to float. So we sort of did that swap. The HRSBI's was, I think, close to $9,800 last year. We're not doing that, but the need isn't there. So that was a cost savings. Plus, we're down 1 bus. So that all helped with this. So it's excited about it. There will be some students who will just come in for special ed services, for example, but the vast, 90% of it is all summer academy and supporting all students. We'll be meeting soon with the staff to give them their assignments and their kids. We did have a community member reach out, making sure that which we learned last year, teachers reaching out to the students that they'd have so parents know before the beginning of the year, beginning of the summer. It was one of those, oh yes moments. So there's some of those things. I mean, it's an obvious one, but when you get caught up on it. So that's where we're at, and it's from July 11th till August 5th are the dates. So
Sounds awesome.
any questions?
Oh, Bill.
It's an odd question, but it's me. Have you ever considered putting it out there as a paid service?
So I know districts that have done that, that the academic portion in the morning is school funded or grant funded, and the afternoons where it is more experiential, different workshops, things along those lines. So for a whole day program, then you pay for the half day. I think there are other options out there, but we could. And I think sustainability over time, we should discuss that as being an option for families to do it. There's sometimes, and this is where I've found it before, of students who are required or need it as determined by different measures, not paying versus individuals who students could participate, who parents want them to, and it's more to benefit because that's what they want, and how we just do that in an equitable manner. But as we just figure out how we're going to sustain this past ESSER funding in 90 and went to 93. Wow, that was bad. in the summer of 2024 will be the last summer we can offer this. We'll, I think, a year in advance need to have that plan because we could put it into play then. So it's definitely worth coming back to and exploring.
Actually, summer.
Summer 2023 is next year then?
Yeah, because meaning the funding does expire September 30th, 2024, but we only plan for 3 years of Summer Academy.
Right.
ESSER 2 paid the last year.
In an ideal world, we'd also be doing enrichment and things like that as well, because that would be.
Right.
There's some pretty cool school options that they do with One Planet and other that I keep hearing about, a couple of them in particular. I just heard about one this past week. But I think it's worth us exploring how we can expand on what we're doing and making it a full day in-house, but more sustainable long-term.
Right. I mean, for those of us, I mean, I'm thinking of myself as a parent, the simple fact that daycare and childcare has tipped off a little bit now that he's in school full time. And I'm actually struggling because I have way too much money put into my, tax-free account. So it's just, I think it's a great opportunity for parents to have this enrichment to parents who can afford to pay for it. But it's also a great opportunity for those students who could use a diverse peer group within that area. I mean, my experience as a State Street Windsor special ed kid is quite unique. The peer group that I interacted with during my special ed time was less than diverse. Let's just put it that's a nice way to put it. And one of the great benefits that I got from going to State Street School was the fact that I interacted with students in a far lower socioeconomic and a racially diverse group than I would have otherwise if I wasn't in special ed. Or went to some place other than State Street School, which was a very unique, genetic grouping. So, with that experience, I'd be excited to have my son go to this program just so he could experience that, like I was experienced it.
And if we know, so that would take some pre-planning for us to know the open spots and planning for staffing. Far before what we did this year, and Brittany was instrumental in helping get this all coordinated because we don't have coordinators this year. That was the other big cost savings as well. But I understand the idea of broadening those horizons, although we do have students that was a 30%, Brittany? For our TMP cutoffs, 35%. So we ended up with a far greater range of students that far exceeded just students that we would typically see as not performing, and then students beyond that.
Well, we also had quite a few referrals this year too, for a variety of different reasons. That was a really nice option for teachers. It's not that we didn't take them last year, but I think it was a little bit tighter. And this year it was like, okay, they didn't qualify via TMP, so show us what else you got. Like what other data do you have? What other classroom measures have you used? Behavioral data, things like that. Attendance was one that gets a little bit tricky because a student who's lower on attendance during the school year likely won't attend during the summertime. And then you're paying for staff when a student might not come, so that gets a little tricky. But we did have quite a few referrals, and all of them ended up being given an opportunity to attend. So that was great.
With the exception of some of the truancy issues, because we didn't want to give a spot away for a student who would attend, but then we're also, if we then now have spots, we're revisiting that, and we'll open that
back up.
back
I think that's for almost all of those as well. At this point, too, have been open. So
I think so.
Yeah.
So I hope that my comments did in any way disparage what you've done so far, because this sounds absolutely amazing. This is a really bright spot in a dim educational year. And I don't mean a dim educational year as just people at work, but we haven't been in recovery. And I want to thank you, Katie, for leading this and putting this together, and the fact that I think this is a fantastic place for students to get another opportunity to have success.
And something I didn't mention, we have staff from all 4 buildings this year, which was not represented last year, as well. It's certainly represented this year, and many returning staff from last year. And everybody gets, whatever their summer plans are, and I hope people are taking lots of time off and doing what they want. But that's been nice to be represented that way across the SU.
Good for
So
them to
thank
work
you.
together too.
Yeah, they really liked it as a staff. It was fun last year. So shorter this year, only 4 weeks versus 5 weeks. That was the other, because of where 4th of July fell. So, all right.
Great, thank you.
That was really good.
Yeah.
And exciting.
And it is 9:35, so we are moving on.
I think we're done.
Because the clock is over.
She says that with such enthusiasm.
Well, that question's quite.
She looked right at me. I don't know what that meant.
Okay, we are, so on item E, which is an update on equity proposals that happened during your report. Equity.
Yes, I
discussion
included all
meetings.
that, correct.
That was, yes, community forums, and we've already discussed.
Yes, I
the
think we're good.
superintendent search. So we are finished
Good thing I
with
did
our
that.
items for discussion. Items for action, we had our Vermont School Board Association discussion. They joined us. And so we are to appoint the interim superintendent. And Nikki, you want to make a motion?
I motion that we appoint Christine Bourne to the interim superintendent position.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Being sorry to sleep.
So, okay, so I am going to do the roll call. I guess a comment is, it was phenomenal getting to know all of you better. I thought it was just really exciting, everything that you are currently doing and continuing to do as we move forward. So I want to thank everyone for coming to all of the interviews and putting up with my crazy scheduling of interviews. Yeah. Okay, and with that, we are going to vote. Anne Marie?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
And I, Amy, am an aye. It is unanimous, and thank you, Christine. Again, thank you, all of you, and for all of the work. And it was also very obvious in this meeting that you're a team, and we appreciate it. It's just really exciting to see our administrative staff working so closely together and with sense of humor and grace. So thank you.
That is a gift.
Or at least we think it really well, right?
That's
The whole grace piece I need.
I don't think you could. Oh, well, that you might be able to do. Yeah, unlike me.
Working together, we're good at that. The grace
That's
piece.
good. It is.
Yeah.
I'll never see it. That's the truth.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So that was our one item for action.
No, we had another, we were gonna vote on the policy.
We already did.
I think you did it. Somebody
We
snuck it
did.
in.
Yeah.
I just fell
Are
asleep.
you trying to add more things, Nikki?
No, I'm just trying to make sure.
And
we're
that
not
that
doing
was
it.
going to be an item for action, but
Next agenda.
Elizabeth said, I make a motion. I said, hey.
Let's go
do
for
it
it.
now. Yeah.
See, I just
Walked it in. It's all cool. And our agenda is set. We will be talking about our hiring employment policy. There'll be an example for that. School board portal, Larry will report on that. We will have a more in-depth conversation on the transgender, gender non-conforming policy, and another reading of pupil privacy policy.
And can we talk about the hiring/employment policy?
That's number one.
That's right on it. We got it.
I was
Get to that page
distracted
while she
by
was
the
talking.
school
By the
board
bugs?
portal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah, I said hiring
I know.
employment policy.
Sorry.
There must have been a hole in the screen.
Yeah, look at the table. Jumping bugs everywhere.
Yes, there are.
Sorry, that was distracting me, Katie.
That's what happened when David was
All the
closing the
jumping
windows
bugs all
because they
over.
were.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how you were focused during your class.
Okay. For those of you who are not here in person, you are missing out.
Do we have?
Or not.
Unless, of course, little jumping bugs.
Right.
So I do not believe we have need for executive session.
Let's hope not.
That would really lose.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
Oh.
Second.
And Colleen has seconded.
Oh my God.
And
My battery's gonna die.
Anne Marie.
Yes.
Okay, Beth,
Aye.
Bill,
Oops.
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
and I am an aye, and I want to thank all of you, and there has been robust conversation, discussion on all of our agenda items, and that can
That's
lead
good.
to lengthy meetings, but it's all very good.
And our next
So-
meeting, just to be, so everybody's clear, it's the third day. I think it's June 20th. And I think that invite is already out. Let's make sure.
Third?
Oh.
I thought we were is there a reason it's not on the 27th, which is the fourth Monday?
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
We can certainly make it that if
we
you
are the
want.
fourth Monday.
Maybe that is. it.
It's already in there.
It's in there. It's in there. That's right.
Okay.
It's already in your calendar.
June 27th.
June 27th. June 27th.
So thank you, everyone.
Glad I brought that
Have a
up.
fabulous evening. We'll see all of you at graduations.
Yes, indeed. All the graduations.